What are we speaking into existence? Welcome to this episode where we're going to talk about the power of word, the power of thoughts, and how to work with our subconscious so that it's working to support what we want to create versus what we don't want to create. So let's talk about word first. Everything is vibration, and that means that everything has a frequency signature. And really, what we want to do is approach everything that we're trying to really create from, or even how we navigate and relate to the world through this consciousness or concept that everything is vibration. And because we're attracting, we're creating through our vibration, we're experiencing through our vibration. The challenge with that is, and of course, there's pros and cons to it, but the challenge of it is that oftentimes we aren't aware of what we're vibing out from our subconscious, and so we're creating things potentially that we don't want to experience, or we're creating things that is coming from our unconscious programming, unresolved energies, even energies that we're picking up from other people or that's being directed at us can affect our vibrational broadcast. And so what we want to do is we want to start to really be aware and refined in what we're personally vibing out, and then how do we navigate through keeping that clean within our own vibratory signature broadcast and our subconscious. So power of the word is such that again, every single word has a vibration. So whenever we're speaking, we're creating a spell. So that's why you've probably heard of spelling. So word is spelling because we're actually creating a spell with our words. So the power of the word is that it either can bless or it can curse. And that is based on the vibration of the word and the consciousness behind the word. So each word has a vibration, and some words create, some words destroy. Some words lift up, some words bring down. Even if we're saying something as a joke, the subconscious doesn't identify it as a joke. So we are literally speaking into existence that which we are speaking. The exciting news about that is that we can start to really utilize the word verbally, and then we'll get into thoughts in a second. We can utilize the word in order to start to create what we want to bring in. So the key is, what do we want to bring in? So getting clear on what do we want to experience? What do we want to create? What do we want to magnetize? What do we want to attract? What do we want to feel? And what do we want to align to? So when we're really clear on that, then we can start to speak that into existence. I am free. I am love. I am inspired. I am creative. I am prosperous, as an example. And then to bring it, and we'll talk about the subconscious a little bit more in a second, but to bring it into more of the frequency of alignment to attract it quicker, or to get our alignment quicker, we can also affirm the now. I am prosperous now. I am free now. It may feel weird at first because we might not be free in the moment. We might not be inspired in the moment. So when we start to actually speak this in, we're speaking to our consciousness, and we're starting to instruct our subconscious. So the cool thing with the subconscious, it's an obedient servant. So it doesn't recognize or filter if something is happening in the now, happened in the past. It's just purely responding to our impact and our command, basically. So when we start to know this, we can start to really work with our subconscious. And the invitation is really approach everything that we're kind of thinking and saying as if like the subconscious is really paying attention and listening to what I'm saying. Do I really want to be saying this? Do I really want to be thinking this? So when we start to approach it that way, it just helps us to regulate ourselves, manage our energy in a loving, gentle way. So the power of word can impact us in three ways. When we speak something, an invitation is practice speaking certain words, like practice the word fear and see how it feels in your body when you say it, or even how it, depending on how sensitive or subtle your energy you are with energy, see how it kind of flows out into, kind of out into the energy field around you. And then start to speak love. and see how that feels. The other thing is try when you're not feeling emotionally well or even physically well, and start to just repeat the words healthy, healthy, loving, balanced, steady, grounded, starting to use these higher frequency words and start to see if that helps to change your vibration and see if that helps you to feel a little bit better. Because when we do speak, we are impacting in three ways. We are imprinting ourselves, we're broadcasting that out into the collective energy, and then we are directing it and impacting a person or experience or a situation that we are directing that word to. So even if we're saying something as a joke, we can say, you're a pain in my neck. And well, next thing you know, you'll start having a pain in your neck because it's called organ language, which means we start to actually imprint our body. Our body is also always listening. Our body is waiting for our command. So when we're speaking, we've got a lot of things listening, and that's how we're creating. So when we speak out to somebody, we're actually basically blessing them or cursing them. Same, with ourselves, but also, and then the third way is when we speak it out into the consciousness, to the collective, from the law of effect, that means that we're going to actually end up receiving back that vibration that we're sending out. So we might not have it sent back in that exact minute or second, and we might not know, at the time where or why something's coming at us, but it's potentially because of something that we've put out at some point that maybe we weren't aware of. The other thing with word is, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about thought for a second. So thought and word are very much connected. Thoughts are more subtle. And so again, really starting to know what we're thinking starts to help us to become more clear on, do I want to actually give energy to this thought? Now, we have over 1,000 thoughts per second. That's a lot. So that means that we're always having tons of thoughts go by. Some thoughts come from the thought forms, the collective energy, groupthink, energies that we've been around, shows we've watched, music we've listened to. Again, everything's being filtered through our consciousness. So we do want to start to become more potentially also mindful if we're starting to create something or we want to be in a certain vibration or alignment. All of these things that we're kind of allowing in our energy field, as well as what we are personally cultivating, impacts us in a great way. So we might start to become more selective or really just clear out our energy field after we've watched something or heard something, especially if it didn't resonate or didn't feel good. So coming back to thought, when we have thoughts, we have over 1,000 thoughts per second. These thoughts are connected to our feelings, to our emotions, to our vibration on some level that we're outputting in subconscious. So say we have an unknown belief of something, and say there's fear around this belief. Fear I'm going to be harmed, as an example. Well, every time I have a thought potentially that crosses my path that vibrates with that belief, I start generating more thoughts because of that. So they're connected. We might not always recognize or realize they're connected, but they are. So we want to learn how to really be aware lovingly of our thoughts as well. So starting to be aware of, what are my thoughts? What do I want to give energy to? And again, sometimes just disrupting our thoughts is powerful enough just to disrupt a certain pattern that starts to then allow us to disrupt a belief system. Our thoughts are creating what we call thought forms, and we're also impacted by thought forms. So a thought form is enough, when there's enough energy given, we create kind of like, think of it like a cloud. And when we have enough of this energy, consciousness of this thought form, it then starts to impact us. This can be super powerful and positive if we're generating something that's really positive. And this can also equally be very detrimental in limiting and restricting or even destructive, depending on what the thought form is. And the thought form is the actual energy that is ready to kind of go into the next stage, which is the form stage. So we really want to start to work with, what do we want potentially in the form, but ultimately, what is the essence that we want? So the essence, so personality focuses more on the form, soul focuses more on the essence. The essence will be the soul quality. So love, peace, creativity, inspiration. What do I want more of? And not worrying, not giving energy to how that's going to come about, when that's going to come about any of that. Any of that's not easy. So we're all learning how to do that. We're all learning how to just kind of let go a little bit. And our most powerful thing that we can do is come back into our own alignment. And what are we giving energy to in our thoughts? Because we're creating these thought forms and we are cultivating and contributing, as well as operating from certain subconscious vibrations that we're maybe aware of. And absolutely most of the time, until we really start cultivating awareness, we're not aware at all, actually, or very minimally. So when we start to focus on what we really getting clear on what we want, then we can start to work with these energies. So we're working on what are we broadcasting out, and then what are we also allowing in. So those thought forms are powerful and important. When we recognize, one of the things, keep in mind, when we recognize that we are contributing to a thought form that maybe we don't want to contribute to, and all of a sudden we start to recognize, the minute we pull out our energy, then it will dissipate. So these thought forms can only exist if we are cultivating and staying connected with it through our energy. What are we giving energy to? Same with collective thought forms. So if we're giving energy to those collective thought forms, then we're being also impacted and influenced. So if there's a lot of collective energy going into a specific thought form, that's more impactful for us. Again, that can be really positive. So when we tune into peace or we tune into love, we're tuning into every person or being that is cultivating and in alignment to that frequency. And that also impacts us. And remember, higher frequencies impact us way more exponentially than lower frequencies. So it doesn't take as many higher thoughts or higher vibrational feelings in order to create what we want, because that will transmute, several thousand thoughts or feelings, lower frequencies. So keep that in mind. So again, it can be when we start to really regulate ourselves or train ourselves to be more mindful, it can start to really happen fairly quickly for us. The key is being aware of what we're thinking. There can be this little wobbly period too, when we start to become more aware of what we've potentially been giving energy to or vibrating out. And then we want to start to create and cultivate something else, but we might be still dealing with or cleaning up some things that we've potentially created previously. Again, most of this time, this can be unconscious. So keep that in mind too. Sometimes there's this little gap period where we are trying to really give energy to what we want to create, but we're still having to potentially clean up or deal with some energies, experiences, or vibrations that are maybe a little bit, lower frequency or maybe more tough or dense to move through. So the other thing with energy, with thoughts and the energy that we're giving forth, whether it's through word, thought, or vibration, is we can also cultivate for somebody else, or we can draw in their energy unknowingly as well. So if I'm thinking about somebody, I can be picking up on their energy, which means if they're in fear, if they're in anger, if they're in hatred, if they're in frustration, then we can tap into that energy. So we want to also practice broadcasting love. So if we're thinking of somebody, invitation would be then, can I come into alignment with love? So when we broadcast love and we're thinking about somebody, we are then transmuting or deflecting any energy that's coming at us potentially from that person or experience that we don't want. And so we're holding a vibration of love, and then it also potentially blesses that person if they're open to receiving that love. And regardless, we are holding a frequency of love, so we are then going to be potentially we will be attracting more of that love, but it's also a protection for us without us closing down our heart. So it's a win-win. So the other thing with energy and how we impact others is, say we're missing somebody, or say we're worried about somebody, that can actually disempower. So we can do that to ourselves, and we can do that to other people or situations or beings. So if we're worried about somebody, or we're missing something from a person being present with us, as an example, then when we're drawing on giving that energy, we're actually taking energy from that person or from that experience. And that creates, again, more energy that person on some level has to adjust to or adapt to. So again, knowing where our thoughts are going and what is our impact, we have so much impact energetically. We don't often recognize or understand the impact because we don't see it directly usually. And the other thing is, again, for ourselves, the key is what vibration can I come into? And again, coming back first and foremost to the word I'm speaking and the thoughts I'm speaking. So let's talk about word again, back to word for a second, and talk about how word can impact when we are trying to vent something or trying to, kind of express something from healing. So there's an indigenous there's an indigenous custom where they would bring in somebody to, like, if somebody had a grief or somebody had a complaint, they would bring in this person or people, and they would say, you have like 3 minutes or 5 minutes to voice your concern, and then we love you too much to let you go on further, because then it can embed it further into the subconscious. So what we want to do is, yes, sometimes we need to speak something out, or we need to release it through that way, through that word. So if we do that, remember, it is through the subconscious. So we want to do something with that energy after. A beautiful way to address that actually is speaking into a cup of water and releasing whatever it is that we want to speak to, or say we're wanting to vent to our friend or vent to somebody, then speak into that water, or have water there, and then throw the water out when we're finished. Because that's releasing the energy. Because that's the thing, when whatever we're saying, that it's energy, so it's going somewhere. It may disappear from us, but it's out now into the collective. So ideally, again, through our contribution to raising the frequency of the collective, of ourselves, of our family, of everything, we want to start to be mindful of the energy, and that energy has to go somewhere, because that's just the nature and law of the energy. So the other thing we can do is we can take water and we can speak into what we want to create or receive, and then drink it. So it can work both ways. Another powerful thing to do with the word is speak in water. So if you're in the shower, if you're having a bath, if you're in pool, or even by water, by the ocean, or by a pond or a lake or a river, start to really speak out loud what it is that you want to, again, receive. I am love. I am aligned to love. I am aligned to unconditional love. I am receiving prosperity now. I am heart-centered and open to peace. I am peace. So again, whatever we want to speak into existence, we can speak that in water, and amplifies it. So the key is, we can create a lot of beautiful things, or we can create a lot of destructive things. There's something called psychic attack and psychic drain. So this is part under the category of potentially cursing somebody, even though we don't realize or recognize we're cursing. And again, I know curse is a big word, and there's a lot of beliefs or a lot of things around cursing. And again, ultimately, keep in mind that what everything comes down to is our own belief. So if we have a belief in something, it will have impact or power over us. And if we don't, then it doesn't, right? So we get to decide that. I know that's not easy, because sometimes there can be a lot of conditioning around it. There can be a lot of, experience around it. So yes, there is energy to everything that we're doing. We get to decide, though, if we're going to allow that in, and we predominantly do that through our beliefs. So again, sometimes we still have to transmute or process some energy that's residual of that. Sometimes we don't, depending on the what we're dealing with, and depending on the impact of the energy we're dealing with. But psychic attack and psychic drain comes when, if I'm thinking of somebody and I'm just sending them really negative vibes, I'm upset with them, I'm disappointed in them, I'm whatever in them, then I'm actually, that's considered a psychic attack. So again, that's energy that's being impacted to somebody, and there's going to be impact on that person, including self. If I'm vibing that out, there's impact to me, and there's impact to that person. And then again, there's psychic drain. So this is what we were talking about earlier, when if I'm really like drawing on somebody's energy, I'm leaking somebody's energy, that is psychic drain. So we want to learn how to really kind of manage both. We want to learn how to manage the energy we're giving out and the energy receiving in. It's said that we are equally responsible for the energy we put out and for the energy that we allow in. So it's both. It's what's my broadcast, and then it's also, what am I allowing to come into my energy field. So I'll just give a really kind of quick, simple example of the impact of our energy. I was in a yoga class once, and at the beginning of the class, we would just lay down, and everybody would be in shavasana on the floor, lay down in relaxation position, and then people would come in quietly. Usually most people would come in and they'd quietly lay their mat down and they would lay down, and there's just kind of like soft music playing, and just there was a bit of a culture, an ambiance, in the studio and in the presence of this class container. And I remember one time a person came in on the way on the other side of the room, of the studio, and came in and just whipped the mat down. And they weren't angry or anything. They were just like coming in from their day, and like slammed their mat down and walked back out to go do something, came back in, and it's just like, then lay down on the mat. And it was almost like the energy rippled so intensely and quickly in the room, it changed the whole wave. And literally, again, if you're sensitive to energy, like I could feel that energy slapping me as if it was almost like a strong, huge wave. So that's the impact. And I'm using that example because it's kind of a quick example to use, but it shows the impact. That's an easy one because it was a quiet studio, and it was a kind of a container where there's more mindfulness. So kind of, again, we can be mindful, but also not mindful of certain things, such as the impact of our word, the impact of our energy, the impact of our vibe. So what do we want to experience and feel? And what do we want to create? We want to get clear on that. And we also want to ask, what do we want our frequency signature to be? So what do we want our frequency footprint to be? What do we want to broadcast out? What do we want to cultivate and create? And the cool thing with this is that when we are in that vibration and that clarity, and we're able to start to playfully and curiously and just, kind of fun, in a fun way, start to cultivate and play with this, with, our vibration and the impact, and watch how things start to come to place, come out, manifest what we experience, we can start to then impact our environment versus always being in protection of our environment or recovery of our environment, especially if we're sensitive or empathic. We can be, constantly as an empath trying to just recover from the energy we've just been in, because there's way more sensitivity. The nervous system of an empath is different. There's a different sensitivity to energy. So the key now is we want to start to, even as empaths, we want to start to really ask, what do I want my vibration to be so I can start impacting versus trying to always recover from it. And then it's a win-win. We're not going to be affected by the energy we're in as much, if at all. And then we are also impacting and potentially creating an uplifting or more loving kindness or more peace or more compassion or whatever it is to that group or to that environment. And again, if somebody's not resonating with that, or there's just too much energy in the group think that it's really difficult for us to hold it, then we'll organically, come out of that experience or out of that situation. So it's powerful. The word is powerful. Our thought is powerful. And the tip is to calm the mind. And, again, a lot of us have very busy minds. So if your mind is busy, I definitely have a busy mind. If our minds are busy, just a really quick practice to do is just close your eyes and focus at your third eye point. So just right between the eyebrows, a little bit above, just kind of where the bridge and the nose meet. So that's just a really great way just to start to calm the mind. You can do this even with yourself, like on the floor, like kind of in a child's position where your forehead is pressing down on the floor, or you can just close your eyes and press your fingers to that point and draw your inner gaze to that point. Practicing that a couple times a day can really help just bring calm, and it calms the mind. Repeating again a mantra, repeating I am peace or something like that can also really help just start to train and structure the mind to come in. And again, everything we're thinking, again, that's a vibration. So if we're feeling really erratic, we're having a really hard time calming our mind, focusing on the third eye, connect to the breath, and then just start to repeat something. And even just get into the habit of repeating something consistently throughout the day. Because again, we always have these thoughts coming in. Most of the time we're not aware. We're functioning through our life, our day, we're engaging in conversations, we're doing things. But again, we've got these thoughts constantly going. So a good practice is just practicing consistently, repeating these thoughts. So again, that's just kind of, invitation to practice that. And also, if you're interested, there's an amazing book and studies done on the impact of water. So Masaru Emoto wrote The Hidden Messages of Water. And what he did, and so he's no longer here, but his work is still continuing. So again, amazing. You can find this easily. He started to really create the word, and well, he didn't create the word. He was studying the word and the impact it had on water crystals. And it's amazing. So even music vibration would create certain crystals or certain vibrations and patterns, and words. So again, speaking the word, thinking the word, even placing a written word on water created either a really beautiful pattern or created a really distorted pattern. So invitation, if you're interested in kind of really diving deeper into the impact of the word, its frequency, thought, that kind of thing, check that out. Super fascinating, and just shows the impact and the power truly of our word and our thoughts. So takeaway is be gentle with ourselves as we explore refining the power of our word. Remember, the subconscious is a very obedient servant, and we want it to work for us because there's still going to be things coming out, even in our, refined mastery of our word and how we're speaking our word and our thoughts. There's still going to be stuff that comes out, but it's way more manageable, and we can come way back quicker and more easily to the alignment of the vibration that we want to come into through our word, through our thought, and then through the vibration that we're broadcasting and aligning to. All right, have an amazing day. Namaste.